It's that time. We're about to kick off an episode of Consulting Unfiltered. We're here to share the real talk on career growth in finance and consulting. You want to be a CFO? You want to get to partner at a firm? Learn from true stories on how to achieve these goals. We will not hold back on anything. Get ready to laugh, learn, and level up your game. All right, are soft skills more important than technical skills for consultants? Today, we'll debate the relative importance of both in achieving consulting success. So I always say, right, 50% psychologist, 50%. I know what I am talking about. Welcome to Consulting Unfiltered, Adventures in Leadership. In today's episode, we are examining the indispensable soft skills for success in consulting. Why are soft skills so important and how can you develop them? So Kat is joining us today. I know that this is one of your topics that you take internally and help people learn a lot here at Fourlane. So thank you so much for joining us today, Kat. Can you give us a little bit, maybe what part of your background helps you, or it could be personal or work, right? That helps you kind of in the soft skills arena.
So it's kind of funny. I was actually talking to my daughter about this recently because she's very nervous. And I'm like, and talking to people, which is a good thing for kids to be, right? Sometimes. But I told her, I was like, when I was fresh out of high school, I got a job waiting tables. And you have to walk up to people that you've never talked to before. You don't know anything about them and engage with them, right? So it was like a quick thing. I just had to get over it. And I think that it really helped me going forward because it definitely helped me come out of my shell a little bit. I was able to just meet people at their level, talk to them about the weather, whatever it is. I can talk to anybody now. It probably drives my husband crazy because I do. I've made so many best friends in lines at concerts, right? So anyways, I think that just overcoming and being able to, really talk to anybody, I think is one of the most important skills that anybody can have, regardless of whether or not they're in consulting or not, right? So, yeah.
For me, it was, I never realized this until I was a little bit, I think, older. I went to 9 schools before I graduated high school, right? And then I went to, technically, I guess 3 colleges by the time I was in the master's program. So, having to go to so many different schools, I had to recreate, my relationships quite frequently. And it wasn't because of, military or anything like that. I was moved around a lot as a kid. Yeah. And I think that in a way, so then of course I look at it and of course I said, oh, well, we're going to keep our family here. We started elementary school and we're not moving. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm doing a little disservice, but I'm going to have to find a different way to get my kids to know how to talk to people. But yeah, that was my exposure. So when we say soft skills, I know that everybody says, I just don't like how we have all these terms out there that nobody ends up defining. Everybody around us always assumes we know what we're talking about. But what are we talking about? What are soft skills?
So I feel like soft skills are something that, you can teach strategies for them, but it's really something that is more practice-based and not something that can necessarily be taught, right? So I can say oh, this is how I handle this situation, but you have to then take that and be like, okay, I'm going to take that input, I'm going to put my own spin on it, and this is how I'm going to handle it, right? It's not like, oh, okay, I can teach you how to add 2 and 2, right? Because that's very specific. You're never going to get another answer besides 4, hopefully. So when we talk about soft skills, what that means to me is just all of those other pieces that are not just okay, here's how you reconcile a bank account. Here's how you, here's what debits and credits are, and here's how those relate to each other. And here's your balance. Those are all more technical skills versus everything that comes with that. And a lot of it is around communication, right? Effective communication, which mastering that or getting close, right? Getting better and better every day at that makes you a better consultant overall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So So why is it that soft skills make you a better consultant? You just said that.
I think that for me, at least, the more information, the more I can get somebody to open up to me, the more information I can get from them so that, we can work together to make the best decision for whatever their issue is, right? So if I get on the phone with someone and I'm asking questions and they're like, yes, no, yes, no. I'm like, well, I'm not asking the right question, or I'm not asking the question the right way. Maybe this person's having a bad day. So like, let's talk about that a little bit. Like, let's pivot. Like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Like, what's going on today? Or at least starting the conversation off like that sometimes can help. Understanding like what their resistance, maybe they're just resistant to change, right? And that's why they're withholding information. So getting to that can also help. But I mean, ultimately, it just allows for a better flow of communication, right? And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay. So what, tell me a time, maybe like a story where, so to help kind of like really paint this picture where, the way, I mean, I know you said like the yes, no, but like what goes through your brain, right? When you're going, okay, I need to tap into, instead of my technical side, I need to tap into my soft skill side. Where do you start? Like how does it kick off, I guess?
Yeah. So I can think about this very specific scenario where we were working with this client, and I don't remember exactly why she was not happy, but she was not happy. I don't remember if she was put into this situation and she didn't want to be in it or whatever the case was. But her emails were very mean. They were a lot. And so I was just like, hey, let's get on the phone. And I think we had to get a copy of her file or something. So while the backup was being created, while the file was getting transferred over or something, there was some downtime where we didn't really have anything to do because we're just waiting for this process. So I just started talking to her. Like, we chatted for 15 minutes while this whole thing was happening. And by the end of that conversation, her entire mood changed. The way that we talked and worked together after that, complete 180. And she was a great client, and it's not that she was a bad client coming in. It was just like and again, I don't remember the scenario, but like we were able to turn it around. And that's probably the biggest like pivot, right, that I've noticed in people. It's so funny. I have one of my favorite longtime clients too is ex-military engineer. My dad was an engineer. I had family in the military, so I kind of, it's just a difference. More direct. Honestly, I don't have an issue with it because they're more direct. Makes it a little easier sometimes.
Saves me some time.
Yeah, it saves me some time. But he would get frustrated and use language on calls. Doesn't bother me at all. But he asked for the recordings. I sent them to him, and he was reading through, he's like going, because they were training recordings, like how to reconcile your bank account or whatever. And so he sends me an email, and he's like, hey, so I really want to kind of apologize to you because I didn't realize I was talking to you that way, and I just really appreciate you, and I want you to know that. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, like, you're going to make me cry. Like, it's really fine. And it's so funny because in that moment, like, I was just like, oh, he's frustrated. He's not frustrated at me. He's having to learn a new thing and all the stuff. And then I popped from that call, went to my next one, and like didn't really think about it at all after that. But it was pretty funny. He was like, I'm really sorry about the language. And I was like, dude, the language part doesn't bother me. I knew you weren't mad at me. So it was, it's fine. But it was just kind of a funny email to get for sure.
So maybe that is part of, communication obviously is part of it. And I heard in there you say, let's take this in the story with the woman, let's take this from the email, let's take this to the phone call, right? And I know a lot of times that is, we call them email bullies and social media bullies and all this stuff, right? Once you get them on the phone, it can be a whole different experience. And then for us as well, of course, we've been a remote company since 2009. So being on camera is a big part of also, like, we are a person on the other side of this, and it helps us to, get across, and start to communicate a little better. And then the best experience for us, although we don't get to do it all the time because, travel costs dollars, but going in front of a person, if we are in front of people, generally as consultants, they end up treating us significantly better. Now, of course, we don't necessarily travel all the time because it does cost some of our small business clients a lot of money. If they want us to be on site for a day, right, but there's 2 days of travel, it just really doesn't make a lot of sense. But that definitely does help. But anyway, so what I was thinking in there, so I heard that part around it, but then also too, it's kind of like, can you keep emotions in check, right? Because that is part of the skill in a consultant. You are allowed to have emotions. We don't say suppress emotions. I mean, obviously you shouldn't be screaming at clients for no reason, but like sometimes you have to yell back at them, right? They're yelling at you, and you have to rise to the occasion into the same emotions that they're having. But then you get off that call and then you go to the next call, and you can't start up here when the next call is down here. So how do you kind of help to master that skill?
So it's kind of funny. I was talking to my husband about this last night. I was like, I'm really good at compartmentalizing. And he was like, I was like, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. He's like, well, it's not a great thing when you're talking
shoving
about
it down
relationships. But I get what you're saying, in that you can jump from, somebody that's up here, somebody that's down here, somebody that's in the middle. And like, it's just, I try to stay consistent. I do feel like it kind of gets me when I realize after a call that I let an emotion show, not that I don't want to seem like a robot, but I let an emotion show that I didn't want to, right? That's when I'm like, oh, crap. But I also just try to find ways, if people are doing something that's annoying me, like interrupting as an example, I will find a way to get them to stop doing that. One thing that I do when I don't have a super long, like if it's a new client, like we always have some people on calls that, I don't know why they called us, because they talk the whole time and don't even pause. And then as soon as you start talking, they start talking over you. So I started this tick where I just kind of like chuckle a little bit when it happens. And then for some reason, they're like, oh, wait, like, I know why she's, like, I'm not laughing at them. It's not like I'm, like, cracking up, but I'm just like, okay, like, it happens, It's so, the other thing, and when that doesn't work, I'm going to get to, like, okay, you're constantly interrupting me. I said, you know what? You have a lot to say, and that's great. I'm going to let you finish. You let me know when you're finished, and then I will start talking, because both of us talking at the same time is not achieving anything. And that really makes me like, whoa, like I really need to, because sometimes they are just being kind of bullies, but on phone calls. And I'm like, we only have a half hour scheduled for this. So I have stuff I need to say. You have stuff you need to say. I'm trying to listen to you. We got to go back and forth. It can't just be one-sided. So that's something that I feel like I'm pretty good at too, just in a polite way, right? I'm not like coming at them, but you have to get your point across. You have to get what you need out of that conversation so you can move on. Right.
Even the call, I had a call 2 hours ago and they were asking us, honestly, I don't even know what they were asking us, because I still can't, like, they came at me with so many different things. And it was like, I need a HubSpot integration, but I don't want a HubSpot integration, but also they're a software company. And so they're like, and it was just, I every time I started to go, okay, here's the direction we should go. And they'd be like, no, I don't want to talk about that today. I'm like, okay, so what are we here to talk? Cause that yeah. So they take you in all these different directions, and you have to just take a step back and go, okay, explain it to me again. And, even though like, I know what you just said, and I am answering to what you just said. But let them kind of have that runway. And then the, my most favorite is when, so in this one earlier today, happens, right? they were functioning some in QuickBooks, they were functioning some in HubSpot, and they wanted us to build a two-way integration because of that. And I said, well, why don't you just function all in HubSpot?
Right.
And it was just like, silence. And then there were the initial reaction from the client is defensiveness. And then you have to, well, let me say it again, maybe a different way slightly, but wouldn't it be better if all information was housed in one place? Yes. Okay. Well, why don't we all function in HubSpot? Right. And so it's like learning the ways to, how to get them to move. Even if the client's telling us no, we still have to uphold, I guess, our integrity, right? And say like, no, I'm really not going to come and build you something that is based off of your crazy thing that you're telling me right now.
Yeah.
When we can do something very simple for you and make all of our lives easier and, progress faster. So I know we talked about this on other episodes too, a little bit, but like, so how do you have you learned that skill? What has helped you to learn those skills?
I mean, failing miserably.
Yeah. Click.
I've gone, it's so funny because I have like team members that are like, oh my gosh, that email, the way that you worded it, holy crap. Like you basically told that, you got your point across, you addressed their concern, and now they want to keep working with you. And I'm like, that's the goal, right? Like, that's what we're trying to do. So, I've gotten pulled into email battles back and forth before, 100%. And now I'm like looking back, 7-10 years ago when that was happening, I was like, oh my God, what an idiot. Like, I just look like an idiot. That person looked like an idiot. I didn't make it any better. So I've definitely got sucked into that before. And so I just compartmentalize, right? I'm like, oh, I am not going to respond to that right now. Or I'll say, let me look into that and I'll get back to you. Just a quick response. So that shuts down the back and forth for a little bit. And then it gives you time to respond on your terms. And you can then work a lot better with that person. I will type email replies and save them as a draft and go back the next morning and be like, do I still want to word it that way? Reading and rereading stuff helps too. And then also bulleted emails. If I get a block of text email from someone, it kind of makes my brain explode a little bit. So I'll okay, you just, trauma dumped on this for 27 lines of this email. So let me just break it up because it's going to be easier for both of us to make sure that we're on the same page. If I am responding over email, or sometimes I'll be like, here's the bullet points. So let's set up a call to talk through those. Right. So yeah, it is a learning process, and I still, might be like, oh, I wish I had responded to that differently. This email I sent on Monday or whatever. But I think if you put the time and effort into, and you really reflect on when you think you could have done something better, or if there's a complete breakdown, we don't have every client we start with, right? We have lost clients, sometimes on our terms, sometimes on their terms. And so even when I think somebody's a little bit crazy, I'm like, well, what could I have done better in this situation to avoid it from escalating? And then I take that and move forward.
Yeah, I call that my replay, right? I always do my replay of conversations that I think were hard conversations that I had, and I replay them and I replay them. And a lot of times I look at it. We talk about this a lot here at Fourlane, right? It's, for every 2 fingers you have pointing out, you've got 4 fingers pointing back at you, or 8. I guess it's 8. I can do math, I guess. I need that calculator. So you got 8 fingers pointing back at you. And so to make sure that as much as you're saying, okay, this was a them problem, you still are also looking at it as how could I have done better? How could I have approached this different? What could I do better? And that replay is really important in the soft skills to really hone in and improve your soft skills for sure. So what about in consultants, right? Because of course we're leaders here at Fourlane and you know, we're building up our tools, but how do you start to see that your consultants have like good soft skills, or maybe even they need some help with theirs? Like what are kind of triggers that you see for people?
So I try to do as much coaching as I can on the front end, and I try to lead by example. So they don't see me get stuck in these email back and forth bully loops. Like they don't see that ever now. There are sometimes if I feel like it's something that we're talking about a situation with the client in like a stand-up or something like that. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, how do you think you should handle that situation? And they say what they, you know, whatever, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I'm like, okay, you know, how are you going to communicate that to the client, right? And then you're like, well, I'm going to blah, 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 whatever it is. And so I kind of coach them through that. Or sometimes I'll say, okay, why not, if, you know, because sometimes they're like, oh, I'm a little nervous about sending this communication or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, well, just put it into Slack what you're going to send them, and I'll give you feedback before you send it. You know, just because I don't want to have to like do it for them, right? I want to help build up that ability for them to do it on their own. And then sometimes they'll send me an email and I'm like, I'm copied on it, right? They're sending it to the client and I'm copied on it, and I respond, I'm like, I could not have worded that better myself. Like, great job, you know? And then they see also the result of like them getting out of that interaction whatever they needed to so they could move forward with the project or whatever the goal was. You know, that's where they're getting that satisfaction themselves. Like with that, I don't even have to say anything in those situations. I still do. I'm like, hey, good job. You know, that was great. You get a gold star today, right? Whatever it is. So, yeah.
Well, I like that you said that. And one of the ones that I probably do more often, because you know, I see a lot that flows through. I have two, right? One is the client has called me complaining, and I ping, you know, somebody saying, hey, your client's emailed me and they're complaining to me. And the response back from the consultant is, I am intentionally not responding yet, right? And so I say, okay, and I let it go, because I'm like, they've got it. They are choosing, right, how to respond to the client in a way that will hopefully give the client some time to cool off a little bit, maybe because the client, everything's an emergency and we have to say it's not. Right. But the other one that I probably do the most frequently is I will ping and say, do not respond, right? Like, please let this go for some time, because if you respond in this moment, it will be not pretty probably. So let's compartmentalize, right? Like, let's push it aside and take a moment. So yeah. All right. So now let me go into the big question for you all out there. Are soft skills more important than technical skills for consultants? So you guys have heard me ask this and talk about it. Do you have to know how to talk to the client more? Is that more important than what you are saying, right? Than what the content of what you're saying is? How it's delivered more important than the content? You let us know what you guys think, and we will see you guys next time on Consulting Unfiltered. And that's a wrap on another amazing episode of Consulting Unfiltered. Don't miss out on all the candid chats and practical wisdom coming your way. Hit that subscribe button to stay connected and keep taking those steps forward in your career. We'll see you soon.